Hello, everybody. Welcome to Life After 55. We are going to try this again. Um, this is going to be the fourth time I've tried to do this tonight. I've had some power issues with the computer, not with the local power company or anything like that. Um, but we've lost power like three other times, and I started and had to stop, and then I erased it and started again, and the same thing happened and the same thing happened a third time. So this is try number four, and hopefully it'll work this time. So, hey, everybody, welcome to Life After 55 Health, Wealth, and Headlines. I am Roy, and we're live right now. Again, this is later than normal. Normally, we do this at 7. It is now 11:02 p.m. Um, on Tuesday night. So I apologize for that. And, you know, I guess you'll see this on the replay. Anyways, did you ever wake up wondering if your heart's really okay after 55? Or if that next doctor's bill is going to sneak up on your fixed income? Well, tonight, in fact, in the next few minutes, I'm sharing 5 dead simple, heart smart habits that keep your ticker strong, even in retirement. Plus, I'm going to share 5 frugal habits worth hanging on to forever and 5 things you should know before shopping Amazon's Prime Days next week. I don't know if that's Prime Days or if it's their spring sale, but I know next week they have a big sale coming up. And I've got some info about that. So you're not gonna want to miss that. You're gonna want to stick around for that. That's gonna be towards the end of the stream here. Um, but if you are ready to feel stronger and save smarter after 55, stick around. Drop a comment if this hits home. Now, just a quick heads up before we dive in. Again, I'm Roy Shipley, and I'm a bookkeeper and a tax preparer, not a doctor, not a medical professional, and not a licensed financial advisor or investment professional. Everything that I share tonight, whether it's about heart health habits, frugal living tips, or shopping advice, is for educational and informational purposes only. It is based on my own personal experiences, general research, and publicly available information. This is not personalized medical health or financial advice. Always consult your own qualified healthcare provider for medical questions and a licensed financial advisor, CPA, or attorney for decisions about your money. Okay, now we're just here to chat, share ideas, and help each other think smarter about life after 55. So I want to thank you for understanding. And now let's get into it. First up, heart disease. Heart disease still takes more lives than anything else, nearly a million Americans every year. But most of it is totally preventable with stuff you can start doing today. No fancy doctor visits or big spending required. So, the first thing is get moving without calling it a workout. Look, no one's saying you've got to hit the treadmill or lift heavy weights like you're 30 again. The goal is just to keep your body from getting stiff and your heart from getting lazy. The American Heart Association, and again, these are the folks who know all about this stuff best. These guys are the experts at it. Um, Says aim for about 150 minutes a week of stuff that gets you breathing a little bit harder. 150 minutes a week isn't much. That's 2.5 hours. 7 days, 2.5 hours. You knock that out in no time. And they want you to do things like brisk walking. Take a walk around the block briskly. Putter around in your garden if you have one. Dancing to your favorite oldies in the kitchen, or even marching in place while watching TV. Now, I've been doing, I don't know last if you saw the last episode of this, but in the last episode, I had mentioned this also about moving around and doing things. And I also said I need to do a lot of this stuff. In fact, I said to everybody I would start walking, as of last episode till today, and that if you didn't believe me, you could tune in today to see if I did to live up to my word. Well, I did. I didn't walk as much as I wanted to. However, I did still walk more than I normally do. Um, so, like for example, a good friend of mine and myself, we went to the beach the other day. We took a nice long walk on the beach. It was, the sun was going down and everything, so it was a nice walk though, with fresh air. And the couple days before that, I went with my son to the local Walmart, and he parks kind of, far away from the store, not close, probably halfway down the parking lot. And we walked from there to the store, and we walked around in the store, went all the way to the back of the store, and pretty much up and down, not every aisle, but a lot of the aisles. And then we even went over to the other side of the store to the houseware section and picked up something over there. So, and then we went back out and walked back up to the car and, put the stuff in the car and drove off. So that was a lot more walking than I'm normally used to in a day. So anyways, yes, for those of you who are following, I did in fact do some walking much more than I normally do. And I plan on doing more of that. And as far as I just said, marching in place, I've also been marching in place every day. I try to do it for 3 or 4 times a day, and I do it for a couple minutes each time I do it. I've also been doing push-ups off the countertop in the sink, the kitchen sink. I mean, I put my arms on the counter, my hands on the counter, and I kind of lean into it, at an angle and do like push-ups like that. So, anyways, those are things I've been doing. Excuse me. And that's what the American Heart Association wants people to do. Now, the key is don't try to do it all in one go. And again, look at me. I just said I do the marching in place or a few times, 3 or 4 times a day. And I only do it for 2 or 3 minutes every time. You know why? Because my hips burn when I do it because I'm so out of shape. And, again, I'm a bookkeeper, so I sit here and I do also, I do rideshare driving sometimes. So essentially, I'm sitting all the time. And I've been doing that for years, so I've definitely gotten out of shape. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So when I do these marching in place, even walking around the store and the beach and all that, yeah, my hips burn because my muscles are just about atrophied, I think. So we're getting those back to, usable condition, and I'm assuming my heart appreciates it, even though it's kind of strenuous at times. But anyways, that aside, but like I said, don't try to do it all in one go. Break it into little movement, what I call little movement snacks. Do 10 to 15 minutes here and there, or even like I do, like 3 or 4 minutes, for 3 or 4 times a day, and do it throughout the day. Walk to the mailbox instead of driving there. Take the long way through the grocery store aisles or pace around during commercials, if you're watching TV. It adds up fast, and your heart doesn't care if it's one big session or a bunch of short ones. And on top of that, throw in a couple days a week of simple strength stuff to keep your muscles from turning to mush. You can do things like standing up and sitting back down from a chair. This is also something I do. I call these chair stands. Do this 10 to 15 times. You sit in the chair, you get up, you sit down, you get up, you sit down, you get up, and each cycle is one rep. So do 10 to 15 reps and do that once or twice a day. You don't need any equipment. Everybody pretty much, I'm sure, has a chair in their house or apartment or whatever. Um, or you want to do something else, you've seen people jogging or walking with the dumbbells in their hands. And I think those are called dumbbells. But anyways, um, if you don't have dumbbells, you don't need to go out and buy any. You grab a couple cans of soup in your pantry or in your cupboard, take those and use those, or you can use water bottles, while you're doing arm curls, um, again, you don't need a lot of sophisticated equipment or expensive equipment. You can do this with stuff you have lying around the house. Do that a couple times a week, and then you're building the muscle that helps support your ticker and keeps you steady on your feet. So, why bother keeping this habit even if you're feeling rich? Well, because, straight up, it makes your heart stronger. It's like giving your heart a daily tune up. And it also helps to drop your blood pressure without pills, or at least it keeps it from creeping up. Okay. On top of that, it cuts your risk of heart trouble and it keeps you independent so you can keep doing the things you love, such as playing with your grandkids, walking the dog, or just getting out of bed without help. Okay? You don't need a gym membership, no expensive gear, no pressure to go hard. You just need consistent little moves that pay off big for your long game. And forget the workout word if it stresses you out. We're talking about sneaking in movement like it's not a big deal. Walk while you're chatting on the phone, garden a little bit if you have a garden, dance around the living room. Do that most days, add a couple quick strength moves twice a week, and your heart will thank you for it. It's not about sweating it out, sweating buckets. It's about staying strong enough to enjoy your life long after 55. Habit number 2, eat stuff that actually loves your heart back, and do this without breaking the bank. Forget about those $80 a month supplement bottles or fancy heart healthy meal kits. You can do this on a regular grocery budget. Load up on real food that's cheap and good for you. There are fruits, vegetables, fresh, frozen, or canned with no sugar added, oats, whole grain bread, beans, lentils, a little fish or chicken, and nuts when they're on sale. Simple swaps that actually work. Um, Throw berries or an apple in your oatmeal instead of sugary cereal. You can use olive oil or a little avocado instead of butter on everything. Cut back on the salty processed stuff like potato chips, deli meats, and fast food. Deli meats, I don't know if you're aware of it, but deli meats are packed with sodium and they're definitely not good for you. They aren't. Um, and the sweet junk goes without saying. Eat more beans and rice, less red meat, and less fried everything. I know that's easier said than done, but why keep doing this even if money's not tight? Well, again, your heart doesn't care how much cash you have. It still gets clogged and stressed from junk. These foods that I just mentioned, they fight inflammation, they help drop bad cholesterol, they keep your blood pressure from spiking, and they make your arteries much, much happier. Plus, cooking at home saves you a ton of money. A ton of money compared to eating out. So it's a win for your wallet on top of everything else. No weird diets, just smarter everyday eating. That's all. All right. Now, habit 3, know your numbers. You know your bank balance, right? You know your numbers there. You check your bank account pretty much every day, right? Most people do. Well, do the same for your body's key heart stats. You can get a cheap blood pressure cuff. They're like 20 to 40 bucks at Walmart or Amazon, and they last forever. I have one that I got off of Amazon a couple years ago. You know why I got mine? I'll tell you a little side story real quick. I went to get my eyes examined. This was like 2 years ago, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and I hadn't gone prior to that. I hadn't gone for, I guess it was about, oh, I don't know. It was probably 2 or 3 years in between the prior checkup. So when I went, the girl, it was like being at the doctor's. Prior to that, I just went in and boom, I went into the ophthalmologist office there or chair or whatever and looked through the thing, number one, number two. And that was it. Well, this time uh, the girl they took me in a room like they do at a doctor's office, and this girl started doing, like, my blood pressure and my temperature and my weight and everything, and it was like I was at the doctor's office, and this was all new to me. I guess that's standard now, but at the time, to me, that was all new, so I started freaking out. I did, and so I normally have very low blood pressure. I mean, low for my age. I don't take any medication for it or anything, and I've been blessed like that. But anyways, apparently, when she took my blood pressure that day, because I was freaking out, my blood pressure went through the roof. I don't remember what it was, but she said to me, she said, "Are you on blood pressure medication?" And I said, "No, I'm not on any medication at all." She goes, "Well, you better have your blood pressure checked because your blood pressure is blah, 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 whatever it was." And it was this astronomical number. I said, "Okay." So anyways, that's when I bought my blood pressure cuff, and like I said, I don't remember what it was, but I know it wasn't any more than 40 bucks. I think it was like 30 bucks on Amazon. And I still have the thing, and you can check your blood pressure all the time, which I do. And I do it maybe once a week, maybe once every other week. But, the ideal is to aim to keep your blood pressure under 130 over 80 most of the time. Also get your cholesterol and blood sugar checked when you can. A lot of pharmacies do this for free, or they do low cost screenings, or it's covered at your doctor, at your doctor's office. You don't need to obsess, but just knowing where you stand lets you catch problems early before they turn into big bills or bigger trouble. Okay. And again, why would you want to keep this as a habit? Because ignorance is expensive. High blood pressure or cholesterol sneaks up quiet like, and then bam, you get a heart attack or a stroke. Spotting it early means you can fix it with small changes or meds if you need them instead of dealing with emergencies. It's like preventative maintenance on your car, cheap, and it keeps you rolling longer. Okay. So, habit four, chill out. Chill out and sleep like you mean it. Stress and crappy sleep are silent heart killers. How many times, and if you look back on the history of videos I've done, how many times have I said that? Stress is a killer. There's someone I know that's always stressed out, and I don't understand it. And I try telling them, chill, man, chill. It's not the end of the world. Life is too short. But stress and crappy sleep are silent heart killers. You don't need yoga retreats. You don't need fancy apps or watches or whatever. Just build in little ways to unwind every day. In fact, in my opinion, all these apps and all this stuff helps to fuel your your stress levels. Just build in little ways to unwind every day. Take a short walk, call a friend, sit on the porch with coffee, listen to some tunes, pray, meditate, read, whatever calms your mind for 10 to 15 minutes. And now for sleep, aim for 7 to 9 hours every night. Cut screens at least an hour before bed. Because if whether you know this or not, blue light messes with you, and it does. Keep your bedroom cool and dark and stick to a bedtime routine. If you wake up a lot, talk to your doctor because sleep apnea is common after 55 and rough on your heart. Okay, why keep this up? Well, again, chronic stress jacks up your blood pressure and inflammation. Stress just raises your cortisol, which, shoots your blood pressure up. Not good. And poor sleep does the same thing, and it makes you crave junk food, which is even worse because now we're looking at a weight problem on top of that if we start eating junk food all the time, right? All right. Good rest and lower stress literally protect your heart muscle and your arteries. And it's free, it feels good, and it makes everything else in life easier. And last but not least, habit number 5, ditch the smoking and keep the booze light if you still smoke or drink. If you still smoke, quitting is the single biggest favor you can do to your heart, no matter your age. And trust me on this one. If you're smoking, definitely quit. I smoked for a long time. I wish now that I hadn't because now I have COPD. It's an incurable respiratory disease, and apparently it's going to kill me one day. Um, yes, it can be managed, and yes, I do my best to manage it and everything, but I wish I had never started smoking. And I'm sure a lot of people, you've heard a lot of people say that, and I'm telling you, take it from me, because I'm out of breath just walking down the street. I'm just walking to the mailbox. I'm out of breath. I can't breathe. And you might hear me breathing harder now. Breathing is a struggle a lot of times for me, and it's because of the smoking. So, and God only knows what kind of damage I've done to my heart over the years with all the smoking. Now, I don't smoke anymore, hallelujah. But it was hard to quit for me. It was. Some people, my father, when I was a little kid, my father smoked. And you know what his thing was? My father was a very, very frugal man. And back then, I still remember cigarettes were like 35 cents for a pack, believe it or not, they were. And a lot of you that are my age know that. And pretty much everybody smoked back then. Doctors smoked. You could smoke in hospitals back then, everybody smoked. Doctors even endorsed cigarettes. There were some doctors that made commercials on TV, I remember, for cigarettes. But anyways, that aside, my father smoked, and he was not a heavy smoker by any stretch. I can still remember seeing him fire up a cigarette. He would take maybe one or two drags off it and put it out. His ashtray had like pretty much fully unsmoked cigarettes it filled up in his ashtray. He'd take one or two blasts off of it, and that was it. My mother, on the other hand, she smoked. They both did, and she smoked. Yeah, she smoked pretty heavily, but she quit, um, and it was a struggle for her, but she did quit. My father was he was more frugal, like I said, and his thing was, if they raise the price of cigarettes, he's not smoking. Well, came the day when they raised cigarettes from 35 to, like, 40 cents or 50 cents a pack, I forget, but my father, the day they did that, I still remember him, was livid, and he was like, "Those SOBs, those sons of, blah, blah, blah." And he quit right then on the spot. He never smoked again. And it was not, for him, it wasn't a struggle because for him, the money meant more than smoking did. So just a little side story there. Anyways, it's funny for me to remember my dad being all PO'd about that. But see, pardon me. Hold on a minute. I have to cough, so I'm going to mute this microphone. All right. Sorry about that. You see, and that's the COPD. Um, I'm coughing up garbage all the time, and hey, it's been all that smoking. So I have nobody to blame but myself for being an idiot and smoking as long as I did. But anyways, like I said, we're trying to manage that now, and hopefully I last a long time. Um, God's help, who knows? But if you are smoking, please stop. Stop today. Stop yesterday, because benefits start the day you stop. You have better blood flow. You have a lower heart attack risk, and by the way, your heart attack risk drops very quickly once you stop smoking. If you need help to quit, please get some. Patches, gum. There are quit lines. There's a 1-800 quit now. That's free. Um, and again, I implore you, don't wind up like me where you're struggling to breathe and everything and you're coughing half the time. If you're smoking, please, please stop. If you are drinking, keep it moderate. Now, I quit drinking a long time before I quit smoking, which I don't know which was worse, but If you are drinking, keep it moderate. What they say is maximum should be 1 drink a day for women and 2 drinks a day for men at the most. A beer, a glass of wine, or a shot, all of those count as 1 drink. More than that regularly stresses your heart and it raises your blood pressure. So, why would you wanna stick with this? Well, again, the smoking, I think I don't have to go any deeper into that. But smoking and heavy drinking are like throwing sand in your car engine. Heart attacks, strokes, and heart failure love that combination, okay, of smoking and drinking. So dropping or cutting way back is one of the fastest ways to drop your risk. And yes, it also saves you tons of money too. Like, I didn't smoke cigarettes. I smoked cigar. I did when I first started, but then I switched to cigars thinking I would quit. Well, I wound up inhaling the cigars and did that for years. So I'm sure I did my lungs no favor. In fact, the COPD that I now have is a testament to that. But anyways, I know that cigarettes are expensive. I saw a guy in the store a couple of weeks ago when I was getting gas, bought a carton of cigarettes, and it was like $90 or something. I was like, wow, I was amazed at how much they cost. Like, I guess a regular pack of cigarettes now is like 5, 6, $7 something, depending on where you get them or what brand you get, I guess. I was kind of taken back by that because when I smoked cigarettes, I think cigarettes were like a buck 50 a pack, something like that. But anyways, all right. So we've just talked about protecting that ticker of yours with some simple everyday habits that no big drama, just smart moves that keep you feeling strong and independent after 55. Well, the same idea applies to your money, just like your heart. Um, your heart doesn't need fancy gadgets to stay healthy, and your wallet doesn't need a bigger paycheck to stay smart. The habits that keep you financially solid, they work whether you're on a tight fixed income or you've got more coming in than you ever dreamed. So let's shift gears now to the wealth part. Okay. And this is 5 frugal habits to keep even if you're rich. These are the little things that quietly build security and freedom, no matter what your bank balance says. And by the way, did you notice we did 5 heart healthy tips and now we're doing 5 wealth healthy tips? 55, get it? Anyways, no, I'm just happy that this thing hasn't pooped out yet because the last 3 times, like I said, when I lost power, it was way before we got to this part. Anyways, habit number 1, fix it before you toss it. Okay. And my father was notorious for drilling this particular rule into my head. Don't just throw something out the second it breaks or looks a little bit worn. Patch your jeans, glue the chair leg, sew the button back on, or take the toaster to a repair shop. Now that one, I don't know. I don't even know if there are repair shops for a toaster. Now you can get a toaster pretty cheap. So that one, take that one with a grain of salt. Um, but anyways, we're talking about repairing clothes, appliances, shoes, furnitures, whatever's fixable, and why keep this, habit even if you've got money to burn? Well, replacing everything costs way more over time and it's wasteful. Rich folks who stay rich don't throw money away on new stuff when the old one's still good with a little TLC. It keeps your cash in your pocket or invested, which is probably better, instead of in somebody else's cash register. Now, just a quick aside for this. I listen to a lot of, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, things like that. Videos. I watch those. There are also audio things that I listen to from these guys. And, you may not know who Charlie Munger is, but he was one of Warren Buffett's partners. And the two of them are pretty financially savvy, I would say. And they were both multimillionaires. But one of the things I listened to, what's his name? Warren Buffett he was being interviewed by somebody, and the interviewer asked him, you know, do you live in a, you have tons of money, millions of dollars, you must live in a beautiful house or whatever. And he said, nope, still live in the same 3 bedroom, 2 bath house that we bought, my wife and I bought when we first got married. He had been in that house at that point in time, something like, I don't know, 25, 30 years. The house was paid off, the mortgage was paid off and everything. And they said, well, you must have a car service or a nice, Mercedes or a nice Cadillac or Lincoln or whatever. And he said, nope, drive the same car I've had for the last 10, 15 years or whatever. And the lady that was interviewing him asked him, what kind of a car do you have? This guy was driving around in like a 1986 Ford Granada, which they don't even make those anymore. Those of you who are older, like in my age, you know what a Ford Granada is, or you may know. And if not, you can look it up online. And I'm sure there's pictures of them online. And I don't know if it was an 86, I don't remember, but I think they were in the 70s or 80s when Ford was making those. Anyways, that's when he bought this thing. And he didn't buy it brand new because he said somebody else took the depreciation hit, not me, and he bought it used and he's still driving the thing, and the guy can afford, he can afford space travel if he really wanted to. And he's driving around in like an 86 or 85 or 84 Ford Granada. I just found that to be amazing. So, anyways, habit number 2, don't let lifestyle creep sneak up on you. Just because you can afford the fancy upgrade doesn't mean you need it. And that goes back to what I just talked about with Warren Buffett. Certainly he could have afforded more than his Ford Granada, but he kept it. And what part of what he was saying in that audio that I was listening to was, you don't suddenly require a Maserati because you've got Maserati level money. Don't buy a bigger house than you actually use or need, even if the mortgage is affordable. Skip upgrading your phone every year if the old one still works fine, and watch those subscriptions. It's easy to add Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, gym apps, meal kits because it's only $10 a month, until you're bleeding 200 extra dollars every month without even noticing. And that's something I need to work on because I do that. I'm notorious for, oh yeah, okay, it's only another $5 or whatever. And then suddenly I see I've got, $95 taken out of my bank for stuff I don't even know. And half of it I don't even use. All right. So why keep fighting this? Well, lifestyle creep is how people go from broke to rich and then back to broke again. All right. Let that sink in. Lifestyle creep is how people go from broke to rich and then back to broke again. The truly wealthy stay wealthy by living below their means, i.e., what I was just talking about with Warren Buffett. No matter what their bank balance is, it protects your freedom, it protects your investments and your peace of mind. Fancy does not equal happy, contrary to what you may believe. All right. Habit number 3. Grow your safety net as your life gets bigger. As your income goes up, your bills creep higher too. And again, most people, oh, I need a raise. And then when they get a raise, suddenly, they again need a raise, a year later. And it's like, you just got a raise, last year. Well, I bought a bigger house. I bought a newer car. People, when they get money, they spend it. Most people do. Okay, and that's what I mean when I say, when your income goes up, your bills creep higher too. You're going to wind up getting a bigger house, new furniture, new car, a nicer car. You're going to start taking more vacations or more expensive vacations. Don't forget to bump up your emergency fund too, if that's what you're doing. And this is a big problem I see in my bookkeeping business. People do not, a lot of people that I deal with, they don't even have a month's worth of an emergency fund, you know? If you used to keep like 3 to 6 months of expenses saved when you were making less, scale it with your new reality. Maybe aim for 6 to 12 months now that your monthly, money nut is bigger. Revisit it every year or after a big life change. And why should you keep readjusting? Because emergencies don't care how rich you are. A medical bill, a job hiccup, or a home repair can hit very hard. A beefed up cushion keeps you from dipping into credit cards or from selling investments at a bad time. It is smart insurance that lets you sleep easy. Habit number 4, flip the switch and other easy home energy wins. Here's another one. I've turned into my father. When I was a kid growing up, my father was constantly running around the house when he was home at night, turning off lights, and he used to yell at us and say, "Are you in that room? No. Why is the light on? Turn the light off." Electricity doesn't grow on trees. I'm sure others have heard that too. And I used to think that, it's not a big deal, but I'll tell you what, my father, even like I had it when I was a teenager still living at home and I first started growing a beard, I got an electric razor and you could plug that in and it had a little red light on it to show it was charging. My father, if he saw that red light on, would disconnect that thing and unplug it. And then I'd have a dead shaver when I had to shave. And I got so mad at him a lot of times, and I would say, "Why did you turn that on?" It's because it's burning electricity. I was like, "No, it's charging it. I need it to be charged." And he would go, "You can buy a razor and do it you could shave with a razor like everybody else." But that was how my father was, and now I'm like the same way. I'm, like my son lives with me, and so I he's got a fan, a ceiling fan in his room, and like in the summertime, he needs it. I don't deny him that, but I'm like now I'm at the point where like okay, when you're not there, turn that fan off. It's burning electricity, blah blah blah. But anyways, that's another thing you should get into the habit of doing. Unplug things that you're not using. As much as I disliked my father unplugging my razor, I realize now he was right. Turn off lights when you leave. Um, when you leave the room, don't leave the light on. It's ticking away at the electric company's meter is ticking. Unplug chargers and appliances that suck phantom power. Run full loads in the dishwasher. Um, Same with the washing machine. Wash clothes in cold water and make it a full load instead of, 15 little loads. You do, 7 big loads. Keep the thermostat a couple degrees higher in summer and a couple degrees lower in the winter. Simple stuff your grandma probably did without thinking. Now, why would you keep this up? Well, even millionaires pay electric bill, and those little leaks add up to hundreds of dollars every year. And it's also good for the planet. It keeps your costs predictable, and it's zero effort once it is habit. Now, why would you want to waste money you could be investing or enjoying? All right, habit number 5. Hang on one second. I need to take a sip of my coffee because my throat is getting dry. Okay, habit number 5. Hunt sales, but do it smart, not obsessively. You can shop sales, and women are good at this, just naturally. This is inherent in women. I've never been with a woman that didn't like shopping and didn't always, like the sales and whatever. And even when I've bought things around women or showed them after I bought something, they're always like, "Well, you could have gotten that $5 cheaper if you had gone here or whatever." So women are good at this, is my point. I'm not trying to be misogynistic or anything like that. I'm just saying that's a good thing. From a money person, a money manager's perspective or a financial person, a bookkeeper or a CPA, whatever, we look at things like spending money stupidly and women as far as shopping sales, all of us agree it's a great thing. So if you're a woman, don't take offense to what I just said because I mean it in a good way. But shop for sales, clearance things, deals, but only for things that you actually need or were already planning to buy. Stock up on staples when they're cheap, things like toilet paper, toothpaste, non-perishables. Um, Wait for big discounts on bigger ticket items. If you're going to buy an appliance like a refrigerator, a wash machine, or whatever, freezer, or whatever, clothes or whatever, and use cashback apps or store rewards if they don't cost extra time or money. Now, why would you keep this habit? I think it's pretty explanatory, but smart sale hunting stretches your dollars further without turning you into a coupon crazy hoarder. Rich people who stay rich buy quality at the right price. They don't pay full retail just because they can. It adds up to real savings that compound over time. So, the takeaway from all this is, smart spending habits transcend tax brackets. Whether you are scraping by on Social Security or sitting on a very fat portfolio, these frugal moves keep money working for you instead of against you. They build wealth quietly, protect what you've got, and they also give you the freedom to enjoy life without the stress. You know, I know what it's like to be stressed out over money. I've been there. It's not fun. I remember that. It isn't. It's not fun, especially if you've got bill collectors calling you and your car payment is due, your rent is due, your mortgage is due, your light bill is due, and you just don't have it all. It's stressful. I know that. I've been there, like I said. Don't ditch them just because the checks got bigger. Keep them, and you'll thank yourself later on. All right. Now, let's shift to the headlines part of tonight's show. Um, yeah, we're doing okay on time, and we haven't had a power outage, knock wood. Um, and again, I was going to do a separate segment or a different segment, I should say. This part of the segment was going to be about 5 places you could go that were budget friendly and health friendly, meaning you didn't have to walk 20 miles, you didn't have to wait out in the boiling sun for 2 hours to get into something. And I had 5 things lined up, so we'll probably do that next episode. So come back 2 weeks from now, because we do this every other week. So not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that. And I will do probably the vacation thing for the headline section. Okay. Anyways, um, I at the last minute, this Amazon thing came up. Apparently, they are having their spring sale. I don't know if it's their Prime Days or I guess it's their spring sale. That's two different things, apparently. I'm not. I don't know. I'm sure most women know what this is. But I did read a thing this afternoon where their big spring sale is kicking off next week. And from what I remember, it's running from Tuesday the 25th through Tuesday the 31st, which means it's a full 7 days of deals on spring stuff like fashion, lawn gear, cleaning gadgets, and more. But listen up, Amazon is not throwing this party out of the kindness of their heart. Okay, so contrary to what they may be telling you and fluffing you with or whatever, they are not doing this out of the kindness of their heart. They are a business meant to make money, like any business, and I don't fault them for that. Any business is there to make money. That's why it's a business. Otherwise, it's a hobby if it's not making money. But Amazon is trying to get your money, and some of these quote unquote deals are actually traps. So do not let them empty your wallet. Now, as a bookkeeper and a tax pro who's seen plenty of folks overspend on impulse buying, I want to arm you with the real scoop so you can shop smart, especially if you are on a fixed income or if you're sticking to those frugal habits that we just talked about. So, here are the 5 things you absolutely must know before you click add to the cart next week. You don't need Prime to shop the main sale. Unlike Prime Day, this one's open to everybody. You don't need a $139 membership. Amazon's sneaky. Um, they're trying to make you think you got a good deal, and in a lot of cases you are, but a lot of cases you're not. You know, they slap a prime shipping or a prime spring deal badge on some items for deeper discounts if you are a member. If you already have Prime, milk it for all it's worth, like gas savings at the pump. If not, don't sweat it. Just shop the regular deals. Those daily deal drops are made to make you panic. Okay. There's a science behind what they're doing. Believe me. The sale lasts a week, but the deals rotate daily with themes like spring cleaning or Easter. Amazon wants you to refresh the app every morning, and they want you to be afraid that you're going to miss out on something. It's a classic FOMO tactic, which, if you don't know what FOMO is, it's fear of missing out. My advice: make a list of what you actually need beforehand, stick to it, and ignore the rest. No impulse buys just because it's limited time. Um, the best discounts are on seasonal spring gear. Expect up to 40% off on spring clothes, Easter items, and up to 30% on lawn and garden stuff, and maybe possibly 50% on Amazon outlet clearance things. Now, if your mower died last fall or you need patio furniture, this is prime time. But if you are just browsing for fun or eyeing winter coats, close the tab. Don't buy stuff you don't need. Don't blow your tax return or whatever, money that you don't have or are going to have a hard time paying for, um, just because it's on sale. And also, watch out for fake discounts and artificial markups. This is my biggest gripe. Sellers will hike the price a month before and then slash it back to normal, and they'll call that a huge deal. And it happens all the time with TVs, with gadgets, you name it. Now, how do you spot something like that? Well, you can use a free tool like Camel, Camel, Camel. Um, and that's the animal camel, three times. It shows the real price history of whatever it is you're looking to buy. So you know it's if in fact it is a bargain or not. In other words, it'll show you if they raised the price a month ago and then lowered it back down to what it was and then made you think it's a big sale now. Don't trust the was $200 and it's now $100 sticker without checking. You don't have to wait for March 25th either. Early deals are already live. Amazon's dropping bargains now to build up the hype. So if you see something you genuinely need at rock bottom price today, grab it. No rule says you have to hold out for the official start. Just be vigilant, check the prices, avoid the hype, I mean, and remember those regrets from past online shoppers who went overboard. Bottom line is Amazon's big spring sale can save you a lot of money on things you actually need. Like I said, spring cleaning stuff, garden tools that support that heart healthy movement that we talked about earlier. But only if you go in with a plan. Do not let the ads win. Shop smart, protect your wallet, and keep those frugal habits strong, even when the deals look shiny. What you don't think, or what do you think? Is anybody planning to shop this? Drop a note in the chat, or in the comments of this video. If you are eyeing something specific or if you've been burned by fake sales before. Um, remember, just try to remember that camel thing I was talking about. It's an app you can get, and you can check, like I said, the history of the price of something. And it's a pretty decent app. It's got a lot of things in there. It's not all inclusive. It's not going to have every single item in the world that was ever manufactured or anything, but there is a ton of stuff in there. A lot of, most things that are commonplace that are on Amazon or eBay or whatever. You can look and see the price history of something. For example, it doesn't have gas. It should, because, that would be an interesting thing to see the history of gas prices up and down every day. But, and just things, like televisions. Walmart does it too. By the way, it's not just Amazon. Walmart does the same thing. They'll the price is $300. They'll raise it to 500, and then they'll have a sale a month later and say, oh, we slashed $200 off to get rid of it because it's been sitting there for 2 months because they raised the price that high. So again, this Camel app will tell you what the price history was of that particular item. So that's something to look into. Okay. All right. So hopefully nobody gets burned by the fake sale at Amazon, or the fake sales, I should say. Not all of them are fake, but a lot of them are. Okay. So, that's going to be a wrap on tonight's Life After 55. Thankfully, we made it through without a power outage this time. So I don't know what that was all about earlier. And again, I apologize, because normally this is done live at 7 p.m. and it is now almost midnight. So we covered protecting your heart with simple habits, keeping those frugal moves strong no matter your bank balance, and dodging the hype on Amazon's big spring sale next week so you can shop smart and keep more of your money. All right. I'm Roy Shipley. Thanks so much for spending this time with me. I'm glad I got to share a couple stories of my dad and stuff, and his whatever's. And I laugh at those, and hopefully you got a chuckle out of it. It's always great chatting with everybody. It is. I love doing this with everybody. And a quick heads up, we are building a little community over on Facebook, and it is called, guess what? It's called Life After 55. It is a group. There is a page there, but I decided the group, the page is kind of silly. Let's make it a group so everybody can kind of talk in there. And here's the thing. Once we get 100 people in there, we can start streaming in there as well. Right now they don't allow us to because we don't have 100 people. So that's why we have to stream on YouTube. But I'd like to eventually be able to stream in there and here so that you can go to either place and watch the stream. Once we hit 100 members, we are going to start streaming the show live over there on Facebook too. So again, you can catch it wherever you like best. Hop over, request to join, and let's grow this group together. Next episode will be here quickly, namely Tuesday, March 31st. And believe me, that's quick, even though a lot of people go, oh, that's a couple weeks off. When you get to be my age, time flies pretty quick. So before you know it, it's going to be Tuesday, March 31st. Same topics, same real talk, more ways to thrive after 55. That's what it's all about. If you did enjoy tonight, please do me a favor, engage with the stream or the replay. Drop a like, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway, and share this with a friend or a family member who could use it. If for nothing else, to laugh, or maybe the Amazon thing, or even the little, exercise things, the heart movement things. Those little actions help the algorithms so much more than you can imagine. They get the show in front of more people just like you, and people that may need to hear some of this stuff. Think about it. There could be somebody right now languishing with some kind of heart ailment, and like me, that was, sedentary, and their muscles are basically atrophying, and they hear me talking about, well, you can start doing little things and it might influence them. It might help them. Who knows? You could be helping save somebody. You never know. That's another reason I do this. Hopefully I will, help somebody somewhere, some way, somehow, someday. That's really where my bottom line is coming from. Anyways, I want to thank each of you for being here tonight. And even if you weren't here tonight, thank you if you are watching this on the replay. You are the best part of all of this. And until next time, stay heart strong, stay wallet smart, and Lord willing, I will see you then. Take care, everybody, and have a good evening or a good day or a good afternoon or a good morning, whatever the case might be. Thank you again for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye.